Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality, and today I wanted to show you how I made this really cool cover for my next series of journals. I'm doing a 1980s series, hopefully. Hopefully it'll be a series. I've started off with Care Bears, and over on my Instagram I had a sneak peek up there. I also have my first video that I made that was making the charm dangles to go on these journals. So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and follow the link, and that is in the description box, and I show you in that video how I go about making the UV resin charms and then putting the charm dangle together. So this is the cover that I made for this journal. I don't have the pages in yet. But I will show you the whole journal when it's all completed. I'll have a flip through here on my channel, and then I'll have 2 of these available in my Etsy shop when they're all completed, obviously. So here is the cover that I made. This is made with a gift bag. I found this cute Care Bear gift bag at a thrift store, and it was probably like a 1.5, like maybe 15 inches by 12 inches tall, and a pretty good sized Care Bear. Basically 3, maybe 4 panels long. I think it was 3 by 4 of these little squares. So I used 2 pieces of it, 2 of the 4 square sections that had Care Bears on them, and I cut those down, and I'm using those for the cover. And then on the back I have this really cute Care Bear fabric. There is some rainbow rickrack that goes along the top and the bottom here and goes all the way around on the back. And then this is a pocket up here. I just put this tag in that I made a while back in there just so you could see how it would look with the tag. But I am going to be making some different tags to go in here that match a little bit better. But I just wanted you to see that it is a pocket. And then on the spine, it's a 2-inch spine that I made. There is a really fun tassel. This has lots of different, this is kind of a rainbow tie-dye ribbon. This is a vintage bear ribbon. It's embroidered. And then there is a pastel ribbon that has rainbows on it. It's really cute. And then there's some pink ribbon, some yellow ribbons, yellow lace, yellow yarn, and pink yarn in there, and some twine. And then of course there is the charm dangle that I made in the first video of this series, and it looks like this. A vintage little Care Bear, and then there's a heart UV resin charm, and then a star UV resin charm, and then 2 little charms made with different beads that I had in my stash. So that is it. It has 2 attached ribbon ties. And then on the inside, I used more pieces of that shopping bag. So one on the front cover and one on the back, and it's just a simple pocket. I sewed those onto the paper here, and then it's all glued in there. The inside part here is more of the fabric, so it makes it nice and sturdy. So I wanted to show you how I do this. So let's move this over. Just kind of put it over there, I guess. Here is my piece of the shopping bag. On this bag, one side had glitter. So one of the books will have glitter on the cover, and the other book will not have glitter. So I know some people don't like glitter, so I wanted to have those 2 options. Plus that's just the way the bag was made. So what I did with this was I cut it down to just these 4 sections and left the Care Bears at the top. The holes here are where the gift bag had the ribbon tied in it, but that will be covered up because I'll be putting the rickrack over the top. But what I did was I sewed a stitch all the way around it, a rickrack, not a rickrack, a zigzag stitch. Actually just did the two sides and the top because this down here I covered with the rickrack. And then I went ahead and did a stitch across in between the boxes going horizontally and then vertically. So that's what that looks like. And then I used 3 pieces of chipboard, and the front and the back pieces are 6 inches by 8 inches, and then the spine piece is 2 by 8. So that's what you need for this. And then you will need fabric. I'm using 2 different fabrics because I used this yellow polka dot on the front, on partially the front. So I'll show you here. So this piece here, and then I wrapped the Care Bears around a little bit to the front there. So you need that, and then I have the Care Bear fabric here. And this fabric was from Joann's. So what you do is you have to start by laying out your fabric. Pull your back and your spine piece over here. This piece here, I'm just going to cut this. Let's see, pull that in there so you can see. I'm going to cut this even. So I'll just cut this off. That can be used for something else. But I just want an even piece of fabric so I can lay this out properly. Okay. So let's pull this down. Pull your fabric so you have the bottom piece. Now this was, I think it was 1/3 of a yard that I purchased. So we're gonna lay this out. Grab your front cover because you'll need to know how much to go over. So I pretty much went over like this width of about 1 inch. So we're just laying it out. Make it as straight as possible. Make it approximately just a little sliver in between. Just like that. I think this is a little wonky here, but that will be covered up with the fabric. And then you want to leave yourself at least like a 3/4 inch border of the fabric at the bottom. If you can see that, pull it up a little bit there, like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is cut up the side. You could use a piece of chalk and draw a line around it if you want. And that'll be, you know, and then just take your pieces off and cut it. And then we are going to turn this because we're going to cut over a little bit here. You still see that? Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to cut down the same amount of the border. But we're not going to cut all the way to here because we want this long piece here to cover the spine. So you're going to stop at about 3/4 inches from the end of that piece there. And then we're going to go ahead and cut it up this way. These are not my best scissors for fabric. I don't know why I have these. I mean, have them out anyway. They are pretty good scissors, but I have my other sewing scissors that work a lot better than these. These just happen to be the ones that I grabbed. I don't know why. Alright, so that's cut there. So now you have this piece. Like that. And then now what we're going to do is cut the corners. You're going to leave about 1/2 inch here because you need some to pull over and glue. But if you could cut some of that out, it'll make a crisper edge when we go to glue it over. And you just want to make sure that your pieces are straight with the fabric. So like all these lines, I kind of use the line on the fabric to straighten out my chipboard. Let's see how. All right, so now what we're going to do is just start gluing this down. So we're going to take our piece here. I'm using tacky glue. It's what I always use. You can use like 3-in-1 glue or like a fabric tack, but I just like the tacky glue. I like the consistency. I like how much give it has when you go to put it down. You can play with it a little bit. It's not going to dry too fast. So you're just going to put it all over the back here. Make sure you have it along the edges. And then I'm using my finger and just spread it out. This makes sure that there's glue over the whole surface and you don't end up with globby lines underneath the fabric. Now we're just going to put this down onto our fabric. Push it down, and we're going to turn it over. You can pull these out. Turn it over, and we're going to smooth it out. Something I should have done here was use my little craft iron and iron out the fabric a little bit. Usually it will pull out, but this doesn't seem to be pulling the wrinkles out. Usually the glue will just, you could just push it down and it goes away, but it's not. But I can still use my iron on this. It will be fine. So I will do that in a little bit. But anyway, let's pull it over. And we're going to glue our spine piece down. Same process. And just spread it out. And put that right down on top of your fabric. Okay, I've turned that over and smoothed that out as well. Now, before we move on, we're going to pull in the yellow fabric, and we're pretty much going to do the same with the front cover. So I'm just going to cut this little piece off here. I'm going to make sure that this is straight, so I'm going to fold it, kind of crease it, and cut it straight. I need to grab my other scissors. Okay, have my good scissors here that are going to cut. Just have a nice straight edge. And then this piece that I'm cutting off here, I can use that inside the book or anywhere, you know, in another project. So now this piece is pretty much going to be like this over here, where we're going to leave a 3/4 inch, and it will be the whole piece that the same. It's not going to be like this, is what I'm saying. So we need our front chipboard piece, and we're going to lay that down right up against the spine piece. And then cut. You want to make sure that this fabric is right next to your back piece of fabric, and then lay down your chipboard piece, leaving a little sliver, and then do the 1/4 or 3/4 inch around, 3/4 to an inch around all the way. And these edges will be covered up after you glue them in, so you don't have to worry about them being perfectly straight, but just like that. Now we're going to glue this down on top of that piece of fabric and this little piece here. So we'll do the same with the glue. Let me know down in the comments below if you're liking the 1980s themes, and if there's another theme in the 1980s that you'd like to see. I have stuff to make Hello Kitty. Of course, I do Strawberry Shortcake a lot. I had somebody on Instagram say they liked Rainbow Bright, and I have done rainbow. I've done Rainbow Theme. I can't remember if I did a Rainbow Bright before. I know I've done Rainbow Theme before. Also, they suggested Fraggle Rock. I have nothing Fraggle Rock. I loved Fraggle Rock as a kid, but I've just never come across like any vintage books or anything like that. So if I did that, I would need to search out some items for that. But I think that would be fun. But I don't know what, how many of you would like that. All right, so let's smooth this out. Okay, turn it back over, and then go ahead and clip the corners like we did on the back cover. Now what we need to do is put glue along the edges and fold in our fold in the corners first, and then the sides, and then the last thing is the spine piece. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, you have it all glued down. What we're going to do now is cut the extra off here. So you could do this one of two ways, and I've done it both. It just depends on your preference. You can do it like this that I'm doing, where you glue that flap all the way down, all the way to the bottom, and then you just trim it off right there. Or if you wanted to, and I think I have videos of me doing it the other way as well, you could pull it over like we did already on the bottom, this piece, so that's clean there, and then you could fold this top piece under so it lines up with the bottom of your book, so you have two folded edges. So it just depends on what look you want. Both ways I think look fine. So this is the easier way. If you do it the way where you're folding it, you have to fold it perfectly straight, so it's straight and flush at the bottom. So it just depends. So now we just have to get this to be even at the edge of the book. Just like that. All right, so now for the inside, we're going to glue in our ribbon. So I have this pink and white ribbon that I thought went well with it. Let's move this down here. I usually put it right in the center, so that's what I'm going to do here, and I glue it in about 1 inch. So we'll take and put some glue right there, about 1 inch in, and then put the ribbon down on top of it, and then we'll decide how long we want this piece. I usually go to a little over 1 foot. Just, you want it enough to make like a nice bow when you tie it. So I'll cut that piece, and then go ahead and cut another piece, the same for the other side. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my back page. So what I did with this was I had this polka dot paper. I cut 2 blocks out of the shopping bag and sewed all the way around so that it made these pockets. But I made the paper the same as the size of the cover, obviously. So now what we're going to do here is just do the same thing with the tacky glue. Put it around the edges, and then you don't have to use tacky glue. Use whatever it is that you're comfortable and that you're used to using, like a double-sided tape, a different kind of glue. This is just what I like to use. This is what I'm used to using. So, you know, of course it's a little messy because I'm having to smooth it out, but this is a thinner paper. If you had cardstock here, you obviously, you know, wouldn't have to do this. You would just need to make sure that the edges were, you had glue all the way around on the edges and then throughout, but you wouldn't have to smooth that out because the lines wouldn't show with the thicker paper. But this is the paper I wanted to use because I didn't have a thicker cardstock. So now I'm just going to press this down. And then what I like to do is pull my front cover over here to match the back, and then figure out where we're going to put the ribbon on the front cover. So just about there. So now I'll put glue down here. Just like that. Match it up there. Needs to go up just a tad. Oh, oops. Didn't hold it down long enough. Came right off. Let's put a little bit of glue on there again. Next thing I'm going to do is spread my glue on my inside cover there and make sure that all the edges are covered and the inside. Smooth it out as well as possible and stick that down. I want to cover the seam on the outside cover, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there, smooth that out. Now this is just a basic ribbon, so definitely smoothing out will help from being able to see through it or see like any lumps or anything like that. So I'll trim it off. And then the last on this part is just to put glue on 3 sides. I want to leave a pocket at the top. Now this, you definitely need to hold it up at the top for a while and along the edges just to make sure it stays down, because I think it's just the combination of that thick gift bag going down on fabric. After that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and add some detail with the rickrack, and that will also cover up the holes at the top of the gift bag. I'm putting it on the front, but you should let that dry a little bit so it doesn't move. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it around. And then after that dries for a couple minutes, we'll go all the way to the back. And trim it off. And I'll trim that section off too. And then I'm going to add some rickrack at the bottom as well. Now one thing I noticed with the rickrack, you just kind of need to go back to certain areas, especially around the spine where it bends, and just make sure it's stuck down completely. Even as it's drying, you still want to make sure that it's holding until it completely dries. Then you're fine after that. Finally, we're going to add the tassel. So what we need to do is use one of your, like a poking tool. I can't remember what that's called, but I'm going to poke a hole right through the top there, about an inch down, right in the middle. And then that's when I'm going to add my tassel and the charm dangle that I made in a previous video. Now I have my tassel on these little drawer pulls, and I'll try and link them down below. They're from AliExpress. It's the only place I've ever been able to find them. Paper Terrace had featured them in one of her junk journal videos a long time ago, and that's where she finds them, so I'll put the link for them down below. I love these because they just go in like a brad, and then you can bend them over and it holds it right on there. So yeah, I love those. You can get them in different finishes, like silver, gold, and then this antique brass look. Here's the charm that I made in a previous video. I love how those turned out, so I'm going to clip that onto the ring. And yeah, that just adds a cute little touch onto the journal. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, go ahead and watch my first video on this series, and come back and I will do a flip through of this whole entire book after I get it put back together. So yeah, this is Kim with Creative Crafticality. Bye, God bless.